Good morning. This is July the 7th. 7th? Sunday 2024. And we are in BBA second semester, Section A compulsory English class, where we are reading the poem Life is Fine by Langston Hughes, African American poet. So I was saying that a poem presents a world. It presents a world. And that world is based on imagination. A fictional world. So as you read a poem, begin by asking the question, who is speaking to me in the poem? Who is speaking? You know, in any piece of literature, we hear someone's voice. We get into the world with the help of someone. That someone in a poem is the poetic persona or speaker. Right? Now, second question you can ask is, where is the speaker while he or she is speaking? Here you look for the place. The place. A third question, what is the time when the speaker is speaking? What is the time? So here you look for where? Here you look for when. The next question you ask is, how is the atmosphere? General impression of this environment. In other words, you can say, then you can ask question like, to whom is he or she speaking. In other words, you focus on the audience, reader, hearer, right? Then you ask a question. What is the speaker saying? Here you focus on the message, or possibly, if chances are there are dialogues. Then you ask, what is the speaker doing? Here you focus on activities, actions, plot. You focus on elements like, त्यहाँ पछाडि बोल्नु भएको छ, म रिसाउँछु अब झ्याप्पै, मैले बोलेको सुनिरहेको छु. You focus on conflict, complication, crisis, etc. Then you focus on what is issue or problem that the speaker raises. What is the issue or problem that the speaker raises? Okay. In other words, let me write. What argument is he making? Then you can focus on what can I learn reading this poem, that is assimilation. Then you focus on what questions, if any, do I want to raise? This is called critical thinking. This can be called interpretation. Okay, let's number these, then we'll focus on each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so now we have a framework, we have a plan that we may follow to read and analyze the poem. Now let's read the poem. I'll read, you follow the lines and try to understand. I went down to the river. I sat down on the bank. I tried to think but could not. So I jumped in and sank. First stanza of 4 lines. I went, I sat down, I tried, I could not, so I jumped. Now the situation is very clear. So we have this I speaking, right? And what is it doing? Look here, its activity. Goes down the river, sits at the bank, tries to think but can't, jumps in the river. So we have a problem in the poem. Somebody is jumping in the river and he is sinking. So we can easily see that he will probably die. It's rainy season, our rivers too are overflooded, and if somebody like in this morning goes to riverside Bagmati, stays by the bank, seriously thinks for a while and then jumps and you see. So you start asking question, what's wrong with this guy or girl? Why did he jump in the river? So we guess somebody is trying to commit suicide in the poem. That is the conflict. Somebody is not feeling fine. That is the conflict, right? Okay, I went down. Now, we can also note the narrator, we note it down, right? I went down the river. So because he walks down the river, we can guess that it must be morning, afternoon, evening, not night. Probably because people normally won't walk out night and go to the river. It's day. So I jumped in, sank. I tried to think. Now a question comes here. Like I said, I want to raise questions. What was he trying to think about? I want to know. I don't know. I am interested because he says, I tried to think, I could not, therefore I jumped in the river. So that thinking must be very serious issue. He must be having some problem. Otherwise, why would a guy or girl jump in the river? Second stanza. I came up once. Now in the first stanza he said, I jumped and sank. One thing we pretty well know, that he did not die. Because if he had died, he wouldn't come here in the poem to talk to us. How can a dead person write a poem, right? So, I came up once and hollered. Hollering is shouting out for help. his body came up on the surface of the water. And he shouted, help me, help me, help me, he shouted. He hollered, he shouted. Again he sank down. I came up twice and cried. First time he shouted, didn't get any help. So second time he began to cry. Now look here. We note down this thing here. He shouts and cries. So if a person has a normal life, they would not shout and cry. Something very disturbing must be going on in his life. That's why he shouts and cries. He must be in some kind of pain, suffering, trouble, but we don't know. Okay. I came up once and hollered, I came up twice and cried. If that water had not been so cold, then he says, oh, now I realize the water was too cold. I might have sunk and died. He says, I did not sink. I did not die because the water was too cold. And I get confused reading this line. So I have a question here. Why did he not sink and die in the too cold river? I wonder as a reader. It's confusing to me. Someone says that the water was too cold, therefore I didn't die. The normal reasoning will be, I died because the water was too cold. So there is a fault in the reasoning in this poem. The reasoning is, I did not die because the water was too cold. Whereas normal reasoning would be, I died because the water was too cold. I see a kind of fault in the argument of the poem. Okay. But I don't know. If that water hadn't been too so cold, I might have sunk and died. Might have, possibility, probability. Okay. Then you have a separate line, but. Now whenever a speaker uses but, he is going to say something opposite to what he has said previously. Because but introduces an idea that is opposite to previous ideas. But is a contrast marker. But it was cold in that water. It was cold, therefore I did not die. Now this is not easy to understand. Somebody saying I did not die because there was too cold water. Okay. It is not necessary that you understand everything in the poem. A good poem makes you more, a good poem might challenge your understanding. And a good poem may raise a lot of questions in your mind rather than giving you answers. Okay, read it. I took the elevator, now the situation changes. Now we can guess that because he took the elevator, that means he came back from the river. He came back from the river. That is not given there, but we can infer. I took the elevator second time. Elevator is a lift that you use to climb on high-rise buildings. 16 floors above the ground. He reached 16 floors on this skyscraper building. I thought about my baby. So first time in the first instance he said, I tried to think, and we did not know what he was trying to think. But second time he says, he thought about his baby. So shouts and cries, now let's write here. Returns home, climbs tall building, thinks about baby. Now, why would somebody remember the baby on top of a building? We can infer that maybe he is going to commit suicide again. And he remembers the family. I'm not very clear whether this baby means his child or this baby means his girlfriend or wife, because sometimes some speakers might refer their girlfriend as baby. My baby, darling baby. And in normal use, we use the word baby to refer to children. I guess it should be children. I thought about my baby. He remembers before he is about to jump. And thought I would jump down. Even after remembering the baby, he is insisting to jump down. But next stanza he says, but I stood there and hollered. That means he did not jump again. He again shouted. We do not know what did he shout about, but we guess that he might have shouted about calling for help. He might have shouted expressing his dissatisfaction with people in society. He might have shouted about what he was not happy about. I stood there and I hollered. I stood there and I cried. Again he cries second time. First time he cried at the river bank. If it had not been so high, friends in BBA second semester section A, do you know that building was as high as the tower in Japa Damak? Right? So I could not have courage to jump down the tower. If it had not been so high, the tower was very high. If it was not high, I might have jumped and died. But the other side is not written. The if part is given, the then part is not given. The condition is given, the result is not given. If I might have jumped and died, if the tower was not very tall, I might have jumped and died. I did not jump because the tower was very tall. Here the reasoning is fine, because when something is very tall, you are scared of jumping. But in the previous section, when he says the water was too cold, I didn't die, that's not understandable. I might have jumped and died. But it was high up there, it was high, so I could not jump. Next stanza. So, there is a second time he uses the word so. So, now conclusion. Since I am still here, now we earlier said where is he? He uses the word here and we don't know exactly where. Previously he uses the word, he says he's at the riverside. Riverside, right? So since I am still here living, so he says, look, dear friends, I tried to kill myself twice. I tried to commit suicide 2 times, but I did not die. And I am still living. Now look what he says. Now the tone of the poem changes. Stanza 1, 2, 3 and 4. These 4 stanzas have pessimistic tone. Pessimistic, sad tone. But stanza 5 has optimistic tone, hope, tone of hope. So since I am still here living, I guess I will live on. Now this is a message of hope. What message does he give? What message? What is he saying? He is saying, we should live on despite problems in our life. One message I get, a message of optimism. We shouldn't commit suicide because life is difficult. Everybody's life is difficult. Whose life is comfortable? Who has a spoon of silver in their mouth when they are bored. No, nobody. We all have to struggle. So never think of committing suicide, because life has so many pleasures to enjoy. Why do you look for negative things? Okay. I guess I will live on. I could have died for love. Now I'm not clear why he says I could have died for love, but I may infer that there is some problem with his love in life. Just a guess. Maybe his girlfriend has left him, he has a baby. Maybe his wife has left him. Maybe he has a quarrel with his wife or girlfriend. I could have died, but one thing, I'm not still sure, I did something wrong. All the way I have been interpreting this speaker to be a male, but chances are that this speaker may be a female, right? Look, my false assumption. I normally assume that a female wouldn't commit suicide, only a male would. But chances are, because we don't know who the I is. Okay, I could have died for love. I could have died. See the conditional. But for living I was born. This is the most powerful line. So what is the message? What is the argument? The argument, if you can copy here, the argument is, see the argument here. What is argument? The argument is, though life poses many hardships and challenges, yet we should not think of committing suicide because life is much more valuable and pleasant than death. That's the argument. In simple way, he makes a claim and gives a reason. Okay. Though you may hear me holler, dear friends, BBA section BA friends, you may hear me shouting and complaining about life and society. I may have complained, I may have grudges about people, I may not be happy. Though you may hear me holler, you may hear me shouting, and you may see me cry. Sometimes you may also see me sad and cry. But I might shout, I might complain, people, I might cry, but I will be dogged sweet baby if you gonna see me die. Now he addresses the baby in the poem, the child maybe. He says, oh dear child, be sure, 100% sure that I will not die at any cost. I may cry, I may shout, I may be disappointed, I may be unhappy with life and situation, but I will not kill myself. I will not take my life. Why? Why? Life is fine, fine as wine. Then he says, look at the argument. Moreover, life is as sweet as a sip of wine. Life is fine as it is. Life is fine as it is. Now let me check. तिमीले पनि केही लेखेन बसिराख्यो यो राम्रो भएन यसरी सिक्ने होइन मैले त्यहाँ लेख्नु पर्थ्यो नि त लेखेन तिमीले त कपी नै निकालेको छैन तिमीलाई भन्नै परेन तिमीले लेखेको रहेछ तिमीले लेखेको रहेछ तिमीले लेखेको रहेछ तिमीले लेखेको रहेछ तिमीले सारेको रहेछ तिमीले सारेको रहेछ तिम्रो हेरौँ खै अलिअलि आफ्नै तरिकाले सारेको छ उसले बल्ल मैले गाली गरेपछि लेख्न थाल्यो आउँछ सरले हेर्छ भनेर उसले सारे रहेछ तिमीले सारे रहेछ तिमीले छैन मैले गाली गर्छ भने बल्ल सार्न थाल्यो अल्छी त्यत्रो आज लेखेको ल ठिक छ ल ल गाली गर्दिनँ ल म खुसी छु ल खै तिमीले बनाएर छ तिमीले बनाएर छ उता A sip of wine, life is fine as it is. When we teachers draw notes on the whiteboard, your job is to copy them and note in your copies so that when you go home, you have something to look back. तिम्रो के आछु कतिजनाले चुपचाप बस्छ चुपचाप बस्ने भए के अर्थ भयो के अर्थै भने इट हेज नो मिनिङ कति सिकाउने है तिमीलाई यो पानी परेछ अल्छी लाग्यो कि ओके सो लेट्स सी हियर सो वी नो हु द स्पीकर इज नाउ हु द स्पीकर इज सो young man, we guess. With a child and family. You can guess because he is a child, there must be a family. Right? Who is disappointed with his life situation. So where is he? Riverside. Now Langston Hughes is an African American poet. So we may have this tendency to say that in the poem it is Langston Hughes is speaking. But let's not interpret that way. Let's not say the speaker is a poet, right? Let's say the poetic persona is universal figure. It can be about anybody. When I taught this last Friday or Thursday, I forgot, I posted the video on my Facebook channel page, and one of my students sent me a message. What message? One of our friends, 2 or 3 days before, in the morning at 4 o'clock, left home and went to Kosi River, and he is not found back for the last 4 days. Police is searching, and people are fearing that he committed suicide by jumping in the river because he left a suicide note at home. He said, "म चतरामा कोसीमा जल समाधि लिन जाँदैछु for something time." He wrote a note, and now family is worried. They are searching. Let's hope he comes back. But it was a very tragic coincidence that I taught this poem about suicide by jumping in the water that day, and the same day one of my friends, English teacher, jumped in river. Right? So sometimes life has such tragic coincidences. Let's pray for his safety, let's pray for his well-being, and let's pray God that he hasn't died, he comes back. He has a family. Okay. So I was relating this real incident just to guess why would he commit suicide. So we guess he must be having some difficulty in life. So what is the time? Exact time is not given, but I will say it must be daytime. Just a guess. There is no evidence because normally people wouldn't like to walk out in the night in darkness. How is the atmosphere? So atmosphere first the atmosphere is pessimistic up to stanza 4, then optimistic in the last 2 stanzas. So the poem begins with pessimism, somebody is committing suicide, and ends with optimism, saying that no, I will live on. I won't commit suicide again because I now realize that life is enjoyable. We should enjoy life. Then to whom is he speaking? So to society. When he hollered and cried by river bank and on top of the building, who were the people? People in society. So if you talk about the conflict here, somewhere at conflict, this conflict is individual, my spelling is doubtful, versus society, I'm not sure. Conflict is when you can't agree with something. So maybe he is willing to do something and society doesn't allow. Maybe now if you just imagine, maybe Langston is a black poet, so let's say this poetic persona may be a black figure. If you say that we are in America and reading this poem in America, then we could imagine that, oh, this speaker is poetic figure, black figure. But as we are reading this poem in Nepal, we can imagine this speaker is a Dalit. This speaker may be a Madhesi. This speaker may be any Nepali who has suffered social discrimination in society. This may be Navaraj Bika, who was killed in Karnali. I forgot the exact case last year because he loved a Malla girl, a Chetri girl. He was a Dalit and he loved a Chetri girl and the villagers killed him. This can be anybody. So this poetic persona is an universal figure. That's why the poem may appeal anybody. It might appeal you also. If any of you has ever suffered social discrimination, suffering, pain, injustice, you will relate yourself to the poem. You will say, oh, I am that man because I am also having same situation. And you will say, yes, I will live like him. I won't surrender. I will fight with the decision I'll live. Right? That's the argument. Okay. Then what is the speaker saying? He says that I went to the river, I sat down to the river, I tried to think my situation, I could not bear my situation, I jumped in this river, I came up twice, I cried, I came home, again I climbed a building, tried to jump, remembered my baby, returned back because I could not jump, the building was too tall, then I realized that, oh, I should live my life, I should not kill myself. A literal comprehension. Message: life is much more pleasanter than death. Then conflict. What is the speaker doing? So he is going to the river, committing suicide twice, coming back, then filled with hope. So he shouts and cries, returns home. Then let's write here. Realizes that life is much more valuable than that, decides that he will live on despite the difficulties. He will live on despite the difficulties. Okay. Conflict is between the person and society. Though it's not very clearly given, but when he says, I hollered, I cried, we can infer that he has something to say to people. Maybe his landlord, maybe his neighbors, maybe the government, maybe the state system. Then, okay, activities plot. What argument is he making? So his argument is very clear. Though life poses many hardships and challenges, yet we should not think of committing suicide because life is much more valuable and pleasant than death. Moreover, life is as sweet as wine, so we should sip life and enjoy life. Then what is the issue or problem that the speaker raises? The issue may be difficulties of life. We do not particularly know what this difficulty is. I'm not trying to interpret the poem to mean that it's about the black figure. I'm trying to say that this poem can be about anybody in the world who has problems in life. It can be about me, it can be about you. This poem is about the friend who died last time or who seems to have died. So the issue is that life poses difficulty. Life is not a bed of roses. It is a bed of thorns, Shakespeare said somewhere. Shakespeare said that life is a bed of thorns, not a bed of roses. For somebody, it may be a bed of roses. Somebody, it may be a bed of thorns. If your life offers a lemon, not an apple, make a lemonade and enjoy. If life gives you a lemon, make a lemonade and sip and stay chill. Last time Steve Jobs said in his essay, sometimes life hits you with a brick on your head. Life gives you trouble. But then you shouldn't go and jump in the river. You should have faith in your gut. You should believe, I can do it, I can solve it, I can face it. You should have faith in the destiny. You should have faith in karma. So you can relate what Steve Jobs says to get inspiration about this personality, this pessimistic figure. Then what can I learn? So I can learn that I should never think of killing myself. I should never think of ending my life. I learned that life is not easy. I learned that life has full of difficulties. But I also learned that I should stand up and I should face difficulties. I have the guts. I have the strength to fight. Look, I'm 56. मैले एक्लै पढेँ, बुवाआमाले बिहा गरिदिए, परिवार पालेँ, जागिर खाएर घडेरी किने, जागिर खाएर घर बनाए, जागिर खाएर बच्चालाई छोरालाई पढाएँ, इन्जिनियर बनाएँ, छोरीलाई लयर बनाएँ, जागिर खाएर दुवैको बिहा गरिदिएँ. अहिले हामी बुढाबुढी घरमा आनन्द सुखले बसेका छौँ. छोराछोरी अमेरिका छन्, छोरी यहाँ छन्, बुहारी अमेरिका छिन्. ह्याप्पी छ लाइफ. पढाइरहेको छु, क्लासमा आउँछु, इन्जोय गर्छु. वाइ सुड आई कमिट सुसाइड? वाइ? लाइफ हेज डिफिकल्टी. ठिक छ, म 12 घन्टा 13 घन्टा काम गर्छु हैन. कुनै बेला मैले 10, 12, 14 पिरियड पनि पढाएँ. मलाई पैसा बढी चाहिएको थियो, प्रेसर थियो, ऋण थियो, लोन थियो, काम गरेँ, दुःख गरेँ. So this poem inspires me also. What message do I learn? I should struggle in my life. I should work hard. I should go on. That's the message I take. What questions, if any, do I have? Now, I have some questions. I want to know what was the problem this guy was having, this girl was having. I want to know. I want to know why he did not die in the cold water, because this reasoning is faulty. If the river's water is too cold, he jumped, he sank twice. He should have died, right? Then I have a question. Does he have a girlfriend? Does he have a wife? If she's a girl, does she have a husband? Who is the baby? Where is the baby? Where is the mother? Where is the father? I have this question. What was his relation with his neighbors? These questions, I don't have answer. Okay. Now your time to ask me questions. It was a teacher-centered class based on lecture. Make sure you have noted down everything. And now ask me questions. No questions, time is up. So thank you so much for patiently listening to me. Thank you. Thank you.